Good morning. It's Friday, July 13th. Welcome to the Local 44 Morning Brew, our second hour, 8 a.m. I'm Amanda Tebow with Megan Carpenter and Paula Spenny-Manjaro.
You're almost to the weekend.
The strike has begun, and that leaves patients unsure of what is next for them.
A mother speaks out about how her daughter is feeling without the nurses she's known since day one.
With another sewage spill, officials are not sure what is happening.
Find out why this happened and why officials are doing something even further to prevent another one.
Well, let's talk about this gorgeous day.
You guys turn in unison, Amanda.
We do this a lot, you know.
You do.
We're very anxious to hear about this nice weather coming up this weekend.
All right, well, let's jump right to it then. We've got another beautiful sunny day, but a dry day, which is not going to help. That's the developing drought conditions across the area. Now, far northern New York doing okay here, but we are abnormally dry through most of our region. In fact, moderate drought conditions have developed for Essex County, New York, southern and central Vermont, and central New Hampshire too, with rainfall totals falling some 2 3/4 of an inch shy of average in Rutland, 3/4 of an inch shy in Lebanon. We have a more than 3.5 inch deficit in Bennington. We're sitting pretty in Newport. Burlington's doing all right too, but of course, the more rain, the better, right? Especially when we've been watching our lake level drop and drop and drop some 5 feet since the beginning of May. Now, the beginning of May was higher than normal. We had a 100-foot lake level at the Burlington Gauge, but we're now down to 95 feet, a normal drop during that same period of time. It's only about 2 to 3 feet. There is rain in the forecast. I'll tell you when in a couple of minutes.
As UVM nurses continue to go on strike, replacements are filling in, creating uncertainty for some patients who are familiar with the nursing staff.
Local 44 Spencer Thomas spoke with the mother of a young patient.
As one UVM nurse leaves, another replacement nurse fills in, causing patients in their care to become more and more nervous.
I've got to say, when we got up this morning, it was stressful to hear that they were going on strike. I could tell that Clara was a little stressed about it because now it was going to be all new people.
Ashley Dustin's 9-year-old daughter Clara has been in the pediatric intensive care unit since June 25th. Since day one, she has had the same nurses aiding her every need, and now there's not a familiar face to be seen.
This has been a very traumatic event for her, causing a lot of anxiety, so having new people doesn't help. So it was stressful. It added a lot more stress to what we've already been through.
Chief Medical Officer at UVM says patient safety is their top priority.
I would reassure everyone that all the clinicians have their eyes on the patients and the finger on the pulse, and making sure that we communicate the status and the current state of our patients.
UVM officials say they fostered a culture of patient-centered family care, which empowers their patients and families to be knowledgeable of their medical care that will then help the new nurses.
That conversation and dialogue really has led to safer care in the end along the years since we've adopted that very patient and family-centered approach.
In the end, Dustin understands why her daughter's nurses left. Spencer Thomas, Local 44 News, Burlington.
Dustin also says that without these nurses, she doesn't know if her daughter would have made it as far as she has today. A statement from the hospital says there have been no significant issues with replacing these nurses, and all OR cases have been completed.
UVM Medical Center is now responding to the strike and its wage proposals. Over a 3-year contract, RNs would receive an increase of more than $10,000. Advanced practice RNs would get a 6% raise to 25%. According to the hospital, outpatient nurses would be matched to the same level of inpatient nurses, which would be an additional 10%. All nurses would get a benefits package that equals more than 30% of their base pay.
We are your local election headquarters. Democratic candidate for Vermont Governor Brenda Siegel released her plan to combat the opioid epidemic. The main pillars include reducing harm, treatment on demand, recovery and prevention, dual diagnosis support, as well as criminal justice reform. Siegel said both her nephew and brother died from a heroin overdose, giving her a first-hand look at this crisis.
I watched the system fail him time and time again. When he was young in treatment for mental illness and was abused there. When he sought treatment at Maple Leaf and they closed without warning and without placing their patients where they could continue their treatment. With the lack of harm reduction and adequate treatment throughout the state, and finally, within the criminal justice system.
Siegel also said Vermont should not be patting itself on the back for a slowed increase of heroin-related deaths, saying it's time to lead with love and compassion rather than stigma and shame.
An update on a former Royalton police officer, John Breaux. He'll be behind bars in federal court for 6 months. He pleaded guilty in March to stealing bags of heroin and prescription pills out of an evidence locker to give to his girlfriend. She was addicted. His defense attorney, Bob Kadam, says he deals with a lot of insecurity issues and codependence, which led John to commit these crimes. Assistant U.S. Attorney William Darrow said it's this type of behavior by an officer that incites public cynicism and makes a fool out of the legal system.
I think that anytime there's a breach of trust like this, that there's going to be a response. And John understood that. He understood that from the beginning, and he accepts responsibility for what he did.
Breaux begins his 6-month sentence when he self-surrenders on August 21st. His prison sentence will be followed by 1 year of supervised release.
State prosecution is asking a judge to hold a Vermont man accused of second-degree murder in jail pending trial. The request comes after the state presented audio recordings during a court hearing. The videos were of Jared Streeter and Joshua Granger. Police say Streeter fell to his death off a bridge after an altercation between him and Granger. The hearing will last until the end of the month.
Turning to environmental matters this morning, the question still is, what went wrong at Burlington's wastewater facility? And officials say they're still looking for an official answer.
Local 44's Haley Boulay has been following the story since May, and she has an update.
City officials are providing more clarification on the 58 minutes that partially treated storm and wastewater was released into Lake Champlain Tuesday night.
This plant is able and designed to run without staff during off-peak times.
Jabin Spencer, Burlington's Department of Public Works director, says the dependability of the automated wastewater treatment plant was the reason there was nobody at the plant that night.
For decades, this plant has operated without staffing, reliably and dependably. Until these last 2 equipment failures, there was no indication that this plant's equipment was reaching end of life.
Now the DPW has been put on notice to come up with a plan to reinvest in this critical infrastructure and prevent these releases from occurring.
With these 2 incidents, are redoubling our capital planning efforts, as the mayor has directed us to bring a plan to the City Council December 1st.
2 employees responded to the plan and 1 worked remotely to fix the problem.
Within 15 minutes, staff was adjusting controls remotely to add disinfection.
Both were in contact with their supervisor during the incident and at the end of their shift.
The challenge in the failure was that the computer system was not receiving those directions and initiating the disinfection pump.
Regardless, folks are still concerned about the health of the lake with these latest spills.
It's just shameful and it's disheartening. This is Vermont. This is our prime place, the lake.
Worried about one of Vermont's most precious natural resources. In Burlington, Haley Boulay, Local 44 News.
Test results have come back below the EPA's standard for E. coli. They say the warning signs at the affected locations will be removed. A developing story this morning, firefighters in Altona, New York are working with forest rangers to continue putting out a forest fire near Flat Rock. 18 departments worked to put this out into the night. They say it's about 100 acres wide. Here's a picture sent in to us. Very smoky sunset there over Lake Champlain. The fire all starting around 1 yesterday afternoon, and the plan of attack for today includes multiple helicopters for water drops and observation. Also, multiple fire departments will be on hand, including from Clinton and Franklin counties. One viewer telling us smoke was visible as far away as Saranac Lake. Luckily, officials do say no nearby properties have been affected.
After a South Royalton teen went missing back in January, family and friends have come together to mourn his loss.
Austin Colson's body wasn't discovered until May 23rd, when officials found it in Norwich. People at a vigil, though, had one clear message: justice. Local 44's Devin Bates was there.
Dozens of people close to Austin gathered in White River Junction with signs that point to a common theme. They want justice. There was a sense of frustration over how long it's been since they've heard any updates in the case. The vigil was an opportunity for friends and family to remember the young man they all loved. It was also clear they were growing restless.
And we want to see somebody behind bars. We want somebody to pay for their mistakes. Austin paid the ultimate price. He is not here, and he deserves that justice.
Many of the posters people brought to the vigil demanded justice come quick, emphasizing the damage Colson's death has caused in the family. It's been 6 long months as Austin's body wasn't discovered until May. Thursday's vigil was also an opportunity for people to remember his life.
I think he would have been an asset to this community. He loved his hometown. He wanted to be in that area, and I feel that people don't hear those things about him, but he was. He was a loving person, and he was a good person.
After people spoke at the microphone, there was a moment of silence for Austin as people stood with their lit candles. Devin Bates.
Police say Richard Whitcomb is a person of interest in the death of Colson, who died from a gunshot wound to the head. Vermont authorities say the investigation is still ongoing.
A Connecticut man is dead following a crash in Marlboro, Vermont. 88-year-old Alfred Wolfson of Stamford was driving west on Route 9 when he crossed the center line, colliding with a dump truck parked in the breakdown lane. Wolfson was transported to Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center, where he did die from internal injuries. We're told that 2 workers were eating lunch in that dump truck when the accident happened. They have since been released. The crash under investigation.
Just about 8:12 this morning, and tempers were flaring across malls in America over a new deal at Build-A-Bear Workshop.
Who'd have thunk,
right?
Makes some people angry. Coming up, why some think the deal is just too good to be true.
You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters.
.14 this morning. We're in the 50s and 60s now. We'll end up in the 80s by this afternoon. It is 72 in Montreal at the warmest, but 67 in Burlington, 63 in Middlebury, 56 degrees in Saranac Lake and in Montpelier, 59 in St. Jay and Newport, 62 in Lebanon and Rutland. High pressure at the surface, keeping us dry today and helping to warm us up too, because we're on the backside of that high pressure. Air is moving in from the south. Again, bumping us to the 80s. There is a cold front waiting off in the wings, but that front's really not cooling things down too much. In fact, quite the opposite. We're going to get warmer on Sunday and Monday. because that front kind of fizzles out as it gets here. Now, Future Tracker's trying to pop up a couple of sprinkles over the higher terrain in New Hampshire later on this afternoon. Don't think that's very likely because of how much dry air there is. It's possible, but not likely. It's more likely that by daybreak tomorrow we start to find some scattered showers that then roll from west to east throughout the day. Again, 80s this afternoon. Surprise, right? We were in the low 80s yesterday. It'll be a couple of degrees warmer than that later on. Light and variable wind. For Saturday, there are those clouds, there are the showers. Not a washout of a day. But if you do have outdoor plans, know you might get rained on. Most of the rain should be pretty light. There's only a really small, slim passing chance for an isolated afternoon thunderstorm. But if you're waiting on the sunshine, oh my God, yeah, you might be waiting until Sunday. There's not a huge likelihood that we find some breaks of blue on Saturday, except maybe in the St. Lawrence River Valley during the afternoon. And then hot Sunday and Monday. So the sunshine's back. We're moving to 90 degrees, if not above, especially on Monday. And it will be humid too. That humidity, low-level moisture, it's going to contribute to finally some moderate to heavy rain by Tuesday. That front does not fizzle out. Holds together, manages to bring us an inch or more widespread for rainfall totals, and then return us to the low 80s. If you missed any part of your full forecast, you can always head to our website. It is, of course, mychamplainvalley.com. Just look for the weather tab.
In Community Matters this morning, a new project is coming to Winooski. The city's first ever parklet project is happening on Main Street. Parklets are public seating platforms that convert curbside parking spaces into pedestrian-friendly features. The goal of the project is to encourage livability, walkability, and of course, wellness. The parklets will be funded by a $3,000 grant awarded by the AARP in March.
A major expansion at Plattsburgh International Airport should create some new jobs there. Governor Andrew Cuomo announcing Vaporstone Rail Systems will invest nearly $2.5 million in machinery, relocations, and employee training. This builds on the $38 million commitment to transform PBG into a modern transportation and economic development hub. The company plans to create 52 new jobs in the town.
In Consumer Matters this morning, banning plastic straws is good for the environment, but it's becoming a burden for some people.
People with disabilities, in fact, raising concerns on growing efforts to ban these types of straws. Many say they need them to drink, and alternatives just don't work as well. Disability rights groups worry if the ban continues, it'll be another inconvenience they have to face. This comes after companies such as Starbucks and American Airlines say they're eliminating the straws. Starbucks has stated that they will work with the disabled community to help meet its needs.
An update this morning from Papa John's. Their founder says goodbye.
John Schnatter has stepped down as chairman. He admits to using the N-word in a conference call. It was part of an exercise meant to prevent PR problems. He had already stepped down as CEO after controversially blaming low pizza sales on NFL anthem protests. Schnatter had been the face of the company since he founded it in 1984. He remains its largest shareholder. Papa John's says a new chairman will be appointed soon.
In Business Matters, hundreds of people lined up outside of Build-A-Bear Workshop for what some think is a really awesome deal.
Others, though, having a tough time believing the deal is actually true. Take a look.
Oh, it's crazy. Definitely crazy.
Very crazy indeed.
I think it's a little chaotic.
Yeah. More than 800 people lining up to Build-A-Bear.
It's crazy long. I wonder if they'll even have enough for everybody out here. It was similar to Black Friday for a bear.
And there's no catch. All right. Whatever your child's age, that's how much you pay for a new furry friend.
How old are you?
7, 9.
He is 1.5, so $1.50.
A great deal and well worth the wait for many families.
Actually lets the kids that can't afford it on a normal basis come in and actually pay a reasonable price for an animal that they would want. We're a single family income, so for us it's a special day.
Obviously, it gets customers out. We're all here. We all want to pay cheaper prices.
While most didn't mind standing in line for hours,
so we feel as long as we keep trucking along, we'll be okay.
Others weren't buying it.
Looking at that crazy line, I've got the little kids, and it's not right for them to have to wait, 2 to 3 hours just to get a bear.
Build-A-Bear offering coupons to families that just couldn't wait all day.
And my daughter's upset that we're not going to get a bear today, but I told her we'll get one in a week or so. Same thing.
Notice something missing? As blood donations decrease, blood of all types disappears from hospital shelves. Help the Red Cross fill in the missing types. Please donate today. You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters to Northern New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Now, Local 44 Sports with Lauren Walsh.
Good morning, I'm Lauren Walsh. Gutterson Fieldhouse is gearing up to welcome some big-name teams next season. UVM Women's Hockey releasing its 2018-19 schedule yesterday with a handful of reasons to be excited for Catamount hockey. Vermont opens the season at home on October 6th against UConn in Burlington. The Cats then take on their usual string of Hockey East teams, and then the fun comes in November when UVM hosts Syracuse, St. Lawrence, and 2016 national champ Minnesota for the Windjammer Classic at Gutterson. The Catamounts will also host Boston College and Northeastern, both of whom made it to the quarterfinals of last year's NCAA tournament. The Lake Monsters have turned their 4-game losing streak into a 2-game winning streak. Vermont blanked the State College Spikes 3-0 on Wednesday for their 3rd shutout of the season. Game 2 of the series last night, and Vermont starts the scoring again. Here in the 2nd inning, Jose Rivas gets all over this pitch and sends it over the left field wall. Rivas tallies a 2-run round trip for his first home run of the season. The Lake Monsters lead there, but not for long. Bottom of the inning, bases loaded, Nick Dunn crushes one to deep center. That'll drop for a 2 RBI double, and the Spikes tie it up. The very next batter, Edwin Figuera, goes opposite field, a line single to right. 2 more Spikes come home. State College now on top 4-2. Skipping ahead to the 5th inning, Spikes on top 6-3. Bases juiced as Jonah Bride creates some offense and then some. He hits a line drive to center. Bases start to clear as 2 Monsters come home. Then a wild throw to the plate prompts a wild throw to third. That scores Alfonso Rivas and Bride for a bases-clearing 4-run play. Lake Monsters go up 7-6, but can't hold on. They lose late 10-9 to the Spikes. Taking a look at the division standings, these include last night's results. Tri-City jumps ahead of Vermont by 2 games with their win and the Monsters' loss. But the standings are tight with Connecticut and Lowell tied for 3rd, and they're not too far behind the Monsters. That'll do it here for sports. Have a great weekend.
You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters.
8:27. Good morning. I'm Polixeni Manjari.
I'm Megan Carpenter. We are your local election headquarters. A Democratic candidate for Vermont Governor Brenda Siegel releasing her plan to combat the opioid crisis.
The main pillars including reducing harm, treatment on demand, recovery and prevention, dual diagnosis support, as well as criminal justice reform. Siegel said both her nephew and brother had died from a heroin overdose, giving her a first-hand look at this crisis.
I watched the system fail him time and time again. When he was young in treatment for mental illness and was abused there. When he sought treatment at Maple Leaf and they closed without warning and without placing their patients where they could continue their treatment. With the lack of harm reduction and adequate treatment throughout the state. And finally, within the criminal justice system.
Siegel also said Vermont should not be patting itself on the back for a slow increase in heroin-related deaths. She said it's time to lead with love and compassion rather than shame.
Amanda is standing by. She's our favorite person. She's been our favorite person for a while with these forecasts. Hey, Amanda.
You only like me on the nice weather days? What is that about? All right. No, truth's out now. All right. Mid-70s across our summits today. Mostly sunny sky. We do have a light and variable wind, so it's not going to be too breezy if you're taking a hike to some of our higher peaks today. That changes tomorrow. It gets a little breezy. Of course, our peaks are going to be in and out of the clouds on Saturday with a couple of showers, possibly an isolated thunderstorm mainly over the Adirondacks. We still have that small chance for a thunderstorm on Sunday, but look, you get more of this, more sunshine. So Megan and Polixeni again will like me by Sunday, right guys? Your lake forecast next. Mostly sunny today. We've got very calm water surface at the moment. A little choppy tomorrow, 2 to 4 foot chop for you out on the lake as that southerly breeze kicks up.
From WFFF, this is Local 44 Morning Brew.
Good morning on your Friday the 13th. Hopefully you don't run into Jason anytime soon. Welcome to Local 44 Morning Brew, bro. The Morning Bro.
It's almost the weekend.
Couple of bros over here. Megan Carpenter with Polixeni Manjari and meteorologist Amanda Tebow.
Friday.
Wow. Obamacare funds getting cut yet again, this time advertising taking the hit.
Why lawmakers say it's bad news for consumers who depend on the insurance.
A civil settlement that shocked Vermont has been reached in the ongoing EB5 scandal.
What this means for the program and how much money the state will receive. We got lots of sunshine today, too.
We do. Beautiful Friday.
Another day.
Yeah, another day of sunshine. Yeah, I feel like I'm almost copy and paste.
We're not
forecast.
complaining.
You could just record me one day and play it for like 5 days.
Oh, we do have so much.
We do have some changes though ahead. We've got some showers of the weekend. Before we get to that, let's check in on those afternoon temperatures. We've got low to mid 80s for you across northern New York under a mostly becoming partly sunny sky. So clouds do start rolling in this afternoon in New York's North Country. And tonight, you're milder, mostly in the 60s, though make it down to the upper 50s through the Adirondacks. We bottomed out at 41 in Saranac Lake this morning. Mid-50s through the Champlain Valley, mostly sunny. Tonight, becoming mostly cloudy, about 60 to 65 degrees, waking up Saturday morning. This afternoon, low 80s in the Kingdom. Tonight, mid and upper 50s, southern Vermont and southern New Hampshire. We're in the 70s in Manchester, but Manchester on an island there. Everybody else gets to the low and mid 80s before tonight, dropping off to just a few degrees shy of 60.
Amanda, around the nation this morning, former FBI lawyer Lisa Page is scheduled to meet with Congress members behind closed doors. Not the case, though, for FBI agent Peter Strzok.
The Strzok hearing was in front of cameras so the public could have a closer look at that heated argument. John Lawrence has more.
It wasn't long before voices were raised at Peter Strzok's hearing. Credibility of a witness is always an issue, and you
Chairman, please,
have
you
Mr. Chairman,
this is intolerable harassment of the witness. What's wrong with that? You need your medication.
FBI agent Strzok was removed from special counsel Robert Mueller's team shortly after Mueller found out about negative text messages he sent about then-candidate Donald Trump.
Of the approximately 50,000 text messages that I've seen with your personal beliefs like F Trump, stop Trump, impeach Trump, go ahead and confirm on the record that none of that occurred on an official FBI device or on official FBI time. Go ahead and do that.
Sir, no, they did. Many of them did.
Oh, they did.
Chairman Trey Gowdy got testy with Strzok regarding a text where Strzok vowed to stop candidate Trump from becoming president.
What I can tell you is that text in no way suggested that I or the FBI would take any action to influence the candidacy of candidate Strzok.
President Trump and his supporters say the text between Strzok and former FBI lawyer Lisa Page show that the Mueller probe is biased against Mr. Trump. Others say this was just smoke and mirrors.
This is a stupid and ridiculous hearing.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
The Justice Department is reopening the investigation into the death of Emmett Till. This is over 60 years later. In a report to Congress, the department says it received new information on the case. Till was just 14 when he was lynched in Mississippi in 1955, his death becoming a major part of the early civil rights movement. His mother left his casket open so the public could see his body. Till was accused of whistling at a white woman. Last year, though, an interview was made public where she admits to lying about that. 2 men were charged in Till's death, but they were acquitted.
Funding for Obamacare advertising has been cut once again.
Democrats saying this is just the latest attempt by the Trump administration to unravel Obamacare. Alexandra Limon reports.
The president has eliminated 80% of funds.
This week, the Trump administration dealt another round of funding cuts to Obamacare. Money that was previously used to help people sign up for coverage will now be used for a different purpose.
Is tantamount to federal funding fraud.
Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon says to qualify for that grant money now, nonprofits that help people enroll will have to encourage people to purchase short-term health insurance plans.
They're going to give money to groups that say, hey, we'll help you unsuspecting consumers go buy these junk insurance policies.
These plans don't cover anything, right? They don't cover essential health benefits. They don't guarantee coverage for pre-existing medical conditions.
However, the Trump administration says people already know about Obamacare, so why spend the money on outreach? And companies that sell the short-term health insurance plans say they're good and inexpensive.
We don't feel that short-term medical competes with ACA in any way.
Short-term health insurance plans used to be limited to 3 months of coverage, but because of a rule change under the Trump administration, people can now buy them for up to a year. Obamacare supporters say the rule change will take healthy people out of the healthcare exchanges, and it's designed to do what Congress couldn't. Kill Obamacare. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
The Department of Homeland Security says it has reunited 57 young migrant children with their families.
A judge ordered DHS to reunite the children under 5 back with relatives this week. Mark Meredith, though, is reporting the status of thousands of older migrant children is still not clear.
I'm very worried about the numbers. I'm not sure they're accurate.
New Mexico Senator Tom Udall says Congress needs more proof the Trump administration has fully complied with a court order to reunite the youngest migrant children with their parents. Homeland Security reports that of the 103 kids under the age of 5 once in its custody, 57 are now back with their parents. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar says the others could not be returned to the adults who brought them here, some for their own safety.
We've saved kids' lives by keeping them from being with some really evil people, some of them, or keeping them with people who are not their parents.
But for some others, the rest of the family has already been deported.
But Senate Democrats aren't buying it. They want Azar to explain in testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
I find this to be a disaster. I find it unacceptable. There's no transparency.
Udall says he remains worried about the thousands of migrant children between 5 and 18 years old that remain in HHS's care. In Washington, I'm Mark Meredith.
Continuing coverage this morning on a settlement that's been reached in a civil lawsuit against 2 developers in the Northeast Kingdom.
Vermont State Police say the pair is accused of defrauding the state's immigrant investor program. Local 44 Spencer Conlon reports.
It's a scandal that rocked Vermont's Northeast Kingdom in 2016.
The greatest harm that this scandal has inflicted on our state is the loss of public trust in state government.
Vermont Attorney General T.J. Donovan announcing a settlement Thursday in Newport with Ariel Quiros, the former owner of Jay Peak Resort. Quiros will surrender 5 properties he owns in Vermont to the state, worth about $2 million.
We hope that by closing this chapter today, by getting some money to this great city, that it will continue its work towards a brighter future, to revitalizing this city, to revitalizing the kingdom, and restoring the harm done to so many community members.
In addition to the settlement with Quiros, Donovan says Bill Stenger, the former CEO of Jay Peak, will also pay $100,000 to the state over the next 4 years. Both men are accused of misusing at least $200 million raised from foreign investors who were promised a path to citizenship in the United States in return.
We didn't just curl up and hide. We decided to roll up our sleeves and get right to work to start planning for a future of Newport without EB5.
State officials say the money will fund economic development projects in Newport and other areas across the Northeast Kingdom. The settlement will also allow now for the state auditor to review the state's role.
To address and answer the outstanding question that Vermonters are curious about and have a right to know, how did we get here? And furthermore, what lessons can we take away from it?
Spencer Conlon, Local 44 News, Newport.
The announcement comes just days after the federal government ordered the Vermont Regional Center to close. The state will appeal, though, as it is in favor of a wind-down approach.
Marvel fans, today is your lucky day because we're taking you to the box office to review a very new movie.
Yeah, Julia Swift is here and reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp.
You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters. Now, meteorologist Amanda Tebow with your Sky Tracker forecast.
8:41 this morning. We are warming up quickly on our way to the 80s again. 67 right now in Burlington, Middlebury, 56 in Montpelier, 62 Lebanon and Rutland, 63 degrees in Newport, and 56 in Saranac Lake. Very dry, very quiet, courtesy of an upper level ridge, but also surface high pressure that's sliding off to the Canadian Maritimes today around the backside. Southerly flow bumping us up to the 80s ahead of an approaching cold front, but I wouldn't bet even $1 on that cold front cooling things off. Instead, quite the opposite. We've got a big warm up for Sunday and Monday, increasing heat and humidity too. Going to be kind of icky to finish out the week and start off the work week. So what's going on with that front? Well, it's fizzling out before it gets here. We'll bring us a couple of showers tomorrow, though. We may see an isolated sprinkle over New Hampshire today, too. Future trackers really hung up on that, but there's so much dry air in the low levels that I think that is very unlikely. What you will see, though, is a few more clouds floating around the sky after lunchtime, kind of like yesterday, right? We had those puffy, fair weather cumulus clouds that popped up during the afternoon and evening. Same story, but also thin, high cirrus clouds, too. That's in advance of Saturday's rain chances. We'll be in the 80s this afternoon. Most of us are in the 80s tomorrow as well, though east of the Greens will likely get stopped in the 70s as that front moves in. Brings some scattered showers, mostly light rain, and maybe an isolated thunderstorm or two, but you shouldn't count on that either. It wouldn't cancel your outdoor plans. I would just know that you might get rained on. Again, rain's not widespread and it's not terribly heavy. And Sunday's chances to see any rain even slimmer. 1 or 2 isolated thunderstorms possible, but just like those sprinkles that Future Tracker was showing today, it's not likely. Where it is likely we have rain is Tuesday and even into Wednesday morning. You know, that's when we want it, especially after the heat Sunday and Monday. This cold front moving through is not going to fizzle out. It holds together, taps into some of that tropical moisture that we're going to see as mugginess Sunday and Monday, provides widespread rainfall totals of 1 inch or more, also bumps us back down to the low 80s. If you need to check the forecast over the weekend and we're not on air, you can always log on to our website. Super easy, mychamplainvalley.com. Just look for the weather tab.
In your entertainment beat, a magazine cover features a famous young woman, but it's causing some controversy, not for the photo, but for the caption.
David Daniel tells us more in today's Hollywood Minute.
Forbes magazine estimates Kylie Jenner is worth $900 million from her cosmetics company, endorsements, and reality TV gigs. So the financial mag featured her on its cover, predicting she'll be the youngest ever self-made billionaire. That's caused a backlash, with critics noting it helped to be born into the wealthy and famous Kardashian-Jenner family. A spokeswoman for Forbes acknowledged that within the term self-made, there are many who are more self-made than others. Chadwick Boseman is going from Black Panther to the NYPD. He's set to star in the action thriller 17 Bridges, about a disgraced New York detective who gets a chance at redemption amid the hunt for a cop killer. Filming is scheduled to begin in September.
I don't talk a lot at school, but if people talk to me and stuff, they'd find out that I'm like really funny and cool and talkative.
By the way, I like your shirt a lot. It's like so cool. What?
The top-rated movie opening this weekend is 8th Grade, starring Elsie Fisher as a girl just trying to get through the last week of middle school. The film, written and directed by Bo Burnham, debuts in limited release with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 98%. That's an A at any school. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Well, it's the day TV's biggest shows and stars have been waiting for.
The 70th annual Primetime Emmy nominations gave out their highest honor in LA. Adam Housley has all the details.
Today, the full scope of television's brilliance is on display.
Streaming platforms ruled the day as Netflix led all networks with 112 Emmy nominations, and HBO's Game of Thrones topped all shows with 22 nods.
These streaming services are here to stay, and they are very, very competitive, so traditional television is definitely has to pay attention now.
I was born to rule the 7 kingdoms.
Joining Game of Thrones in the Outstanding Drama category is last year's winner, The Handmaid's Tale, as well as This Is Us, The Crown, Stranger Things, Westworld, and The Americans.
This comedy thing, it has to work.
Amazon's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is considered the frontrunner in the Outstanding Comedy category. Maisel's up against Atlanta, Barry, Blackish, Silicon Valley, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Glow, and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Johnny Versace. Versace. Signore Versace.
Topping the Best Limited Series category, FX's The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime, and Netflix's Godless. HBO's Paterno and Netflix's Black Mirror, USS Callister lead the Best Television Movie category.
Hip hip hooray!
And as usual, there were plenty of surprises and shows that didn't make the cut.
The biggest surprise for me had to be that Modern Family was not nominated in the Best Comedy Series race. To my knowledge, that is the first time in that show's history that it has not been nominated.
In Hollywood, Adam Housley, Fox News.
You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters. At the Box Office is sponsored by Essex Cinemas.
Change of plans.
Hang on.
I want that lab, boys, whatever it takes.
Hold on.
Oh! That on the cameras, it's filthy.
Ah, they got bigger problems.
Okay, so that part was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Another chase scene. We were just kind of laughing about that. It's Friday. We are taking you to the box office. Julia is here. She is taking on the Marvel blockbuster Ant-Man and the Wasp.
So it is a blockbuster in the sense that it is making money.
Yes.
It's not making a heck of a lot more money than expected because there's not a whole lot that it's competing with, right?
Right.
So it is a sequel. And if you haven't seen the first one, you will be a little lost in this one.
Which I feel like is different than some of the other superhero movies we've reviewed.
And actually, if you haven't seen the whole Marvel universe,
Okay.
the Marvel movies are starting to get now where you have to see them all.
So I'd be totally lost.
You'd be a little bit lost. And you felt like this was not my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Because I loved the first Ant-Man. It was hysterical. And that was partly done by Edgar Wright, who's an amazing, you know, Dawn of the Dead. He's hysterical writer, director, and he did Baby Driver last year, which was amazing.
Which is great.
So he was involved in the first one, and then this director took over, and now this director, Peyton, did this one on his own, and it's just not as funny.
Yeah.
And he said that it's a female-driven movie. It's not a female-driven movie. Just because you have a woman who's on screen a lot doesn't mean it's a female-driven movie.
Just because there's a woman there doesn't mean...
You know, the story is all, it's his story. It's his choices. It's his risks.
Sure.
So the director also did Bring It On, which was this fun movie. And so I expected it to be more fun. It just wasn't. And if you like chase scenes, there are lots of chase scenes in this. But even that we just saw, it wasn't as funny as the chase scenes in the original. So
kind of boring.
Kind of boring, not my favorite. But there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world of film.
Let's talk about
a
that.
lot more interesting than this movie. As part of what's going on with the China-America trade wars, movies have gotten caught up in that this week.
Yeah.
Both American officials and Chinese officials have talked about how movies are part of this new trade war. Because 5 years ago, in 2012, so it was actually more than 5 years ago now, there was a deal that was supposed to last for 5 years where American movies, 34 American movies, could be shown in China. Because the Chinese government limits how many movies from other countries can go. And this is important because China, as of first quarter of this year, sold more movie tickets than any other country in the world, including the United States.
And we can possibly get a piece of that.
Absolutely, we have been getting a piece of that. $1 billion, right? Every year. So we've been getting a big piece of that. And we had gone from, in 2012, from 20 to 34, and now the Chinese government we were supposed to be renegotiating this year, and they keep saying, well. So as the movies are becoming part of this trade, it might mean that we get less movies shown in China. And if we get less movies shown in China, that means budgets are going to start shrinking. That means less movies are going to be able to be made in the United States. Because as people have stayed home and been watching Netflix and Amazon in the United States, and some are still going to the movies, we've made up for that difference with China. And if we can't have China, then that greatly affects movies that we're making for the world.
I wish we didn't have only 15 seconds left, because I could talk to you about that all morning.
Part 2 next week.
Yes, stay tuned. That could be huge, though.
It could be really huge.
It could be huge for us, in a not a good way.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot. We're talking lots of jobs, and not just in LA anymore. You know, there are a lot of jobs in New York.
Yeah.
Huge industry in New York for the film industry.
All right. Oh, man, we always run out of time so fast. We'll be right back.
You're watching Local 44 Morning Brew, local news that matters.
Good morning. It is 8:56. I'm Paul Manjari.
And I'm Megan Carpenter. In Community Matters, a new project coming to Winooski. The city's first ever Parklet project will happen on Main Street. Parklets are public seating platforms that convert curbside parking spaces into pedestrian-friendly features. The goal of the project is to encourage livability, walkability, and wellness. The Parklets will be funded by a $3,000 grant awarded by AARP in March.
A major expansion at the Plattsburgh International Airport should create some new jobs. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Vapor Stone Rail Systems will invest nearly $2.5 million in machinery, relocations, and employee training. This is on top of the $38 million commitment to transform BPG into a modern transportation and economic development hub. The company plans to create 52 new jobs in town.
And it's the same forecast you've heard for the past couple of days.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, beautiful one, at least for today. We're sunny, highs in the 80s, not that far to go now that more of us are jumping into the 70s and upper 60s. And then we're going to keep on cruising through the day, making it a few degrees more than yesterday. So more of you escape the 70s, more of you bump into the mid-80s, especially in Broad Valley. So we're at 67 in Burlington and Middlebury, 64 in St. Johnsbury and Montpelier. It's also 67 right now in Lebanon, 72 in Montreal. So mid-80s and sunshine this afternoon. Easy going. Light and variable wind for you this weekend. Small chance for some showers on Saturday. More sun by Sunday, but it will be muggy, quite hot too.
All right.
Like hot.
I suggest everybody find a boat somewhere today.
And a creamy.
Any boat. Anyone's boat. We'll be right back.